big immigration targets, we all know that we're probably going to see some housing issues in Canada if we don't change anything to the supply side. And more specifically, with limited land in Toronto, that's where the bigger problem will lie. And that's why both the provincial and municipal governments here in Toronto have been trying to speed up the pace of new housing construction. The provincial government has come out with a Bill 23, which was passed back in November of 2022 last year, and now permits up to 3 units to be built on all residential lots in Ontario. Meanwhile, the City of Toronto has been also working on a separate initiative focused on multiplex housing, and they've made some progress on this front too. And next up, the Toronto Planning and Housing Committee will have a meeting on April 27th to talk about recommendations on how to move forward with this. What's going to be changing can be a big deal for real estate investing in Toronto, and that's why we've been keeping an eye on this progress. And in this video, we'll be summarizing recommendations on what we find are most important for real estate investors so that you know what to look out for. But before I do that, check this out. This is a heads up that you can get our complete Toronto real estate investing guide for free on our website. You can see things like a breakdown of typical costs, rents, appreciation, sample financials that you can change up to see how it affects your returns, and even try out a quiz to see what might fit you best. I'll put a link to the free guide in the description below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss other content like this made just for real estate investors in Toronto. The Ontario Bill 23 lets people build up to 3 units on residential lots. But Toronto, like I said, has a bigger housing issue, and so the Toronto Multiplex team is actually aiming higher, and the goal here is for a city to allow up to 4 units in the existing house to better meet our target of building 285,000 new homes in the next decade. And here's a quick timeline of what's happened so far. Back in December of 2022, the 2023 Housing Action Plan was approved, which really sped up the multiplex housing initiative here in Toronto. And so in February of this year, 2023, draft amendments were shared for public feedback. And then last month, in March, the team continued to refine amendments and summarize feedback. So now coming up next on April 27th, we should see a final report, and the Planning and Housing Committee will be meeting to review all of it before it gets presented back to City Council in May. Just for your reference, there's no new or updated timelines for anything else beyond May of 2023 from the city. But technically, the 3 units in all Ontario residential homes need to be implemented 1 year from November 2022, which would be November of 2023 this year. And the city previously mentioned that we might see the Toronto Multiplex plan get implemented in the spring of 2024. And so we just have to wait to see if we get more updates closer to May. Now let's dive into the current key recommendations from the Toronto Multiplex team. Now, the first easy one is zoning. So right now, if you want to build a multiplex, it's not allowed in many houses in Toronto because zoning simply doesn't allow for it. And moving forward, we should expect to see duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes permitted not just in the R residential or the RM residential multiplex zones, but also in the rest of the low-rise residential housing zones, RT, RS, and RD, and also a change to something called the U values in multiplexes, just to make sure that they can create up to 4 units in all existing multiplexes. And I think all of these changes should be pretty straightforward. Now, the next one is build form, which makes it physically possible for bigger builds like fourplexes to actually happen. The City of Toronto's presentation deck does a pretty good job in describing all of this in detail, so I do recommend that you head over there if you want to learn more specifically about this, and I'll link it down in the description below. But from a high level, they're planning on increasing the depth and height and excluding common areas in the gross floor area calculations to simply allow for bigger builds. The other big one is that they'll also make secondary suite requirements easier by permitting entrances to be on the main front road facing wall of the house, which wasn't allowed in many cases before. But I think the biggest unknown now is what might actually happen when it comes to development charges. Now, it's not just real estate prices that have been seeing a roller coaster ride. Development charges have also seen this roller coaster ride lately too. Rates got bumped up in August of last year, 2022, and then they were scheduled for more approved increases in 2023 and 2024. But Bill 23 reversed this back down in November of 2023 for all units, and then they also saw a further decrease of around 20% if it was intended for rental purposes. But honestly, development charges are still very high at current levels. And if you were to convert a single family home to a triplex, it might cost you $200,000 in construction costs. But development charges alone would be close to that, which ends up almost doubling your total cost. And that ends up being not worth it for most real estate investors. And if it's not worth it, the multiplex project won't actually end up doing much to create new housing. And so one key recommendation is to waive development charges for up to 4 units in multiplexes in Toronto, which could end up being the game changer here in Toronto. But again, on the other end, this would be the trickiest one to pass. I mean, this would be a big revenue loss for the city, and city staff are already pushing back, saying that it's going to make it harder for the city to meet its other housing goals. Luckily, it won't be too long before we find out what's actually going to happen. If development fees actually get scrapped, then it can open up a lot more opportunities for real estate investors and make real estate investing in Toronto a lot more attractive, improving things like rental income, reducing capital requirements, and just giving a lot more options for growth for real estate investing here in Toronto. So if you're thinking about learning more about these kinds of opportunities, we'd love to have a personalized discussion with you to learn more about your situation. So just reach out to us by heading to the link in the description below. We're a real estate sales brokerage that focuses on investing in houses and multifamily homes in Toronto, and here's how it's like to work with us. First, we'll do a discovery call with you so we get to know each other more and help you get your financing ready, and then we'll teach you how to analyze deals. Once you're set, our sales team will work with you to find the best opportunities on the market and eventually help you buy the best one for you. Houses typically need a bit of renovations, and we'll help you with a detailed scope of work and contractor connections. And then once you're ready to rent out the place, we also have leasing and property management services if you need it. So if you want to learn more about any of this, just head over to our website at the link down below. Again, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and look for us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn if you want to hear from us more regularly. You can also head over here to check out our other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next video.